Hello, this is the first part of Chapter 3, Section 2. If you want to follow on your textbooks, it's page 116. We're talking about solving the systems of linear equations by substitution. Make sure that you take notes and that you take the survey at the end. So here are the steps for solving substitution. First step, identify the lonely variable. This is a variable that has no coefficient. Okay, remember that a variable has no coefficient, has a coefficient of 1. So we want a coefficient of 1 before we can do anything else. Step 2, if this is not already done so, we're going to solve for that variable. So we want the goal of this is just to say that either x equals some equation or y equals some equation. Doesn't matter which one. Step 3 is substitute that equation to the second equation given and solve for the remaining variable. We'll see what that means in a minute. Step 4 is substitute that value back into either the original equations in order to solve for that second variable. So what we solved for in the first one, we're going to put back into one of our original equations. After that, we find our second variable, and then most importantly, we write our solution as a coordinate. We'll have an x and a y variable. They should be written as an ordered pair. Remember, x first, then y. So, first example, m equals 8 and 2m plus 4s equals 64. So this was nice. So step 1, we identified the variable, which is easy. We have m and solve for the variable, which you already know because it says m equals 8. And then step 3, we're going to substitute that into the second equation and solve. So I'm going to take my 8 and put it in to the 2m plus 4s equals 64. Every time I see an m, I'm going to put an 8. So I'm going to substitute m, take away my m, and put in an 8. I'm going to solve. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 4s equals 64. Next step, we want to subtract 16 from both sides, which gives us 4s equals 48. Then last step, divide by 4. 48 divided by 4 is 12. We get s equals 12. Last step, always, after we have both variables, is to put them into ordered pair if we have x and y. And we want to put them in alphabetical order. So x first, then y normally. In this case, we have m and s, so we have m first, then s. So we get an order pair of 8, 12. Okay, so let's do a couple more examples. Example number 1, we got 3x minus 8y equals 17, and then negative 5x plus y equals negative 16. So first step, we want to identify the variable. So this time we're gonna try and use y because y is lonely. It has a coefficient of 1, so we're gonna go ahead and solve for y first. So in order to do that in this equation, we're going to add 5x to both sides. So it eliminates it on the left, and we're left on the right with just, or on the left with just y. And on the right, we get y equals 5x minus 16. Now we have y by itself. We're going to put that into first equation for y. So we get 3x minus 8 in the parentheses 5x minus 16 equals 17. Now remember, the first thing we are going to do with this in order to solve for x is we're going to distribute my 8. So we get 3x minus 40x, negative 8 times 5x is negative 40, and then negative 8 times negative 16 is a positive 128 equals 17. Next step, we're going to combine like terms, so 3x minus 40x, it gives us negative 37x plus 128 equals 17. After that, subtract 28 from both sides. Negative 37 equals negative 111. Last step, we divide that negative 111 by negative 37, and that gives us x equals 3. Nice number 3. So next, we're going to take that 3. We're just going to plug it into either the two equations at the very beginning. It really does not matter which one. In this case, we're just going to put it back into the y equals 5x minus 16, since that and the second equation are the same thing. So we're going to have y equals 5 times 3 minus 16. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 minus 16 is negative 1. Last step, we're going to put in ordered pair. Remember, alphabetical order, x then y, so we get 3, negative 1. Next example, last example, we have x plus 2y equals 8 and negative 4x minus 4y equals negative 12. So the first thing we're going to do is identify the variable, which in this case, we're going to use our x. It's the one that's lonely, has no coefficient, has a coefficient of 1. So we're going to take that and we're going to solve it for x. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract 2y from both sides. We get x equals 8 minus 2y. So then I'm going to put that into my other equation. Negative 4x minus 4y equals negative 12. So every time I see an x, I'm going to put in 8 minus 2y. So I'm going to plug that in. I distribute. So negative 4 times 8 is negative 32. And negative 4 times negative 2y is positive 8. Combine like terms, so 8y minus 4y is just 4y. Add 32 to both sides. And we get 4y equals 20. Divide by 4, and we get y equals 5. Then remember, we have to plug it back in. We're going to plug it back into that x equals 8 minus 2y. So every time I see a y, I'm going to plug in a 5. So I get x equals 8 minus 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10, so we get 8 minus 10. X equals 8, or equals negative 2. So then remember, we got to write it as an ordered pair. So x is negative 2, y is 5. So we get negative 2, 5. And that's our final answer. Okay, a couple things to remember. We are substituting values and equations into variables. So just like we did when we made tables to graph, you replace the variable with the equation or value. Substituting is the same as replacing. Don't forget to fill out your notes, do the completion survey, and bring questions to class tomorrow. Here are the survey questions. Pause for a second and answer these on your paper. Come in with questions. Have a good night.